In issue 5, we really pick up steam. The issue starts with Karen talking about, oh no, how could I do this to Matt? And it's actually a lot more heartfelt because instead of being selfish and thinking about, oh no, my life and all this, she's thinking about someone else and how she could let her past sins affect someone who's done nothing but good and done nothing but forgiven her and uplift her to a better place. And that's what she feels bad about. If only Peter Parker could be so lucky, right? And then we cut to Daredevil talking with Doctor Strange because he assumes what's going on with him has a mystical component and something dealing with his faith, which makes sense in the way they kind of interplay. It doesn't feel tacky, but then Strange actually finds a way to summon and blindfold Mephisto and ask questions on Matt's behalf, and then quickly Mephisto catches on to who's being asked for, and then partly by sensing him otherwise, which is interesting because here you have the devil blinded. I mean, obviously a character reference, but it's great because he calls out Matt as the blasphemer who uses the devil's name but does the work of the just, which is a brilliant play on it, and just seeing it and taking away from the idea of Daredevil, you know, some guy who jumps a motorcycle across 10 cars, but bring more the devil idea in, you know, playing off his costume, and just it's a nice interplay. And then the devil alludes and says, I'd love to do all this to you, but after what's about to happen, I couldn't break you anymore. And Daredevil goes running off, and it's a great use of foreplay because you see Bullseye, because, you know, it's a big Daredevil arc, so it has to have Bullseye in it. And there's this whole entanglement, and his mother's hurt, and then these other people are already dead, and then after he rushes in, Bullseye takes Daredevil's club, chucks it, and kills Karen with it, which is just a great way. I mean, this character is effectively already dead already, but this sudden snap just kills it completely. And it was actually a powerful death, and I've actually watched some commentary on it, and they purposely didn't hype this one. It was supposed to hit the readers as an impactful thing, which it even hit me a lot harder than seeing some other comic deaths, because A, I've never heard about this character before, so I'm assuming she doesn't come back. Also, it was handled well, and whereas I'd really only known her for a handful of moments from this arc, it was actually powerful because within a few moments of her seeing her, despite the way she was written poorly with dealing with the HIV part, she was actually a likable character, unlike a lot of love interests for superheroes. Now, issue 6 needed to happen, but for the most sake of this arc, really not a lot happens. Daredevil's struggling with Karen's death. He runs through some stuff and is seeking for vengeance, and then it's slowly unfolded that a lot of these characters that made all this situation happen were all orchestrated by one person, and a lot of them actually played by one person, Mysterio. And that is really the sum of that issue, which is only interesting for one of my points, which is that of conflict, that being that all of these aspects and all these angles that have been coming around and destroying Matt's life from every angle all come down to one person, which is important, as you'll see in a little bit, because this play has already been made before, again in a famous Frank Miller run by Kingpin, and is the thing that defined Kingpin as Daredevil's main arch-nemesis. So this issue starts off basically, Mysterio's made his big reveal, and also says the baby is being kept in this soundproof chamber, I guess, so Daredevil has to listen to him in order for the baby to survive, because if he tries to do anything, Mysterio will kill the baby with the touch of a button. So that's the way they co-op this grand speech, which effectively is the issue, in which this all comes together, and you see how Mysterio's come from every angle and played all this to destroy Daredevil's life. Why? Because Mysterio's always been trying to destroy Spider-Man, and what he needed to do is, since he'd always been taking these chemicals with the smoke that he's always been creating, he was going to die from a terminal illness, cancer, and just since he was going to bite the bucket soon, his goal was to destroy one of these heroes, one of these grand acts, because he viewed himself as a great director, and all these other people come up and made these shoddy films with all these effects, but he brought it to the people in real life, and this kind of insane thing. You see some movie angles pulled, obviously, from Kevin Smith's knowledge of the industry. Fair enough. But then you see Daredevil, after listening to all this, says, I've been listening for your power source, and knocks out the fishbowl in his head, and he's essentially defeated. Daredevil's able to get the baby, and says, I've been listening, but everything you've done is a rehash. I mean, the supernatural coming to life, you've done that with Spider-Man before, destroying my life like this, that's something the Kingpin's done, yada yada. And so Mysterio's like, but I still did this all to you, aren't you angry? Kill me. Just, he doesn't bother. And you get the sense it's not from some great moral angle or anything. It's more from a, you're beneath me, I'm not going to bother. More of an insult to injury than any actual normal, I'm a superhero, I don't kill. And then Mysterio says, well, the ironic part is, I stole this from Kraven, and eats a bullet. And Matt walks off with, it's funny, the baby didn't shed a tear, and neither did I. Which is just cold as he walks away, and it makes sense. It's a human reaction to someone who's done that level to you. Sure, you're not willing to do it, but if they're going to commit suicide, are you really going to make the effort to stop them? No. It's something that a lot of characters, especially one that Daredevil's compared to all the time, Spider-Man would though, especially with someone like Mysterio. And that's where we see the next issue come into play. And so the issue starts out with Karen's funeral, and everyone's sad, and they kind of talk about it, but Peter goes to Matt and says, we need to talk. And so they talk, and they talk a little bit about Mysterio on the bridge and where Gwen died. They talk about innocence dying to the job and whatnot, and Matt's just really beat up about it, and is like, no one's innocent, especially not us. And are we really doing any good and whatnot? And Peter points out, well, someone needed you, and you saved that baby, which makes him view it the way he kind of should be. You know, he's trying to do good, and he's trying to accomplish something, and it's these other people who are perpetrating these evils onto people, and he's attempting to stop it. They don't really spell it out like that, but it's good to see that, because you have this idea that, I mean, he's always about justice and trying to do the right thing, but he kind of sees the reaction and the counter-reaction, all that. And I think kind of boiling it down to, well, sure, it's there now, but if you stop, all these people are going to keep doing what they're doing, and then there's no one to stop them. And without that counterbalance, more evil's done, which kind of is a rejustification for the vigilante justice and trying to keep doing the lawyer thing. And you see him decide to essentially become a lawyer again, because he was fired earlier in the arc, and then he decides to start up with Foggy by the end of it, which is all well and good. Now, moving on though, you see him have another bit of guilt, which is interesting, because he goes and talks to the Black Widow again, and they kind of recount his more notable affairs, though he's had a few more with women, which is actually an interesting point to his character, that he gets around a little more. He's had more relationships, and a lot less of them have been healthy, but a bit more interesting dynamic, in some ways believable, on the idea that a superhero would want to date another superhero, or someone like Elektra or something like that, rather than, you know, Mary Jane. So all in all, what's really interesting about this arc is we see this superhero who's definitively Catholic, who that should make it easier for, I mean, this black-white idea of justice, whatnot, but it comes into conflict because all this dogma and all this idea of religion and the idea of man makes it actually more complicated than just the idea of, well, the cops can't do what I should, and jumping in and allowing that to confuse him and trying to do something bad for good, and realizing that for knowing the full extent of the law and actually coming in and actually saving the day. But when someone is actually targeting you for that, which also makes you re-question everything again. And then they're willing to do something to themselves. I mean, the idea of justice there just being, at that point, let them. No one really argued the fact that Daredevil let him die, which I think says a lot about justice. The fact that Spider-Man didn't get on his case for not trying. And then the idea that, I mean, all of that conflict was just, I mean, part of the weight's still there. I mean, usually at the end of a comic arc, that's it, and you start anew. But no, I mean, some of that weight is still there, and so you have that guilt and that burden, which makes the conflict part of the identity again, which is really interesting to see in just so many short issues.